I got 12 top players to rank all the minis in Clash Mini, from those that will make you lose instantly to the minis that you have to use to get those 3,000 trophies. Starting with the tier, the minis that you need to avoid. Starting with the Dagger Thrower. He's just super underwhelming. There's nothing that makes him stand out because the Archer is always a better alternative. And then we have the Mosquito. He faces a very similar problem to the Dagger Thrower in that there's no reason to use him. He's very squishy as well, and he doesn't do a lot of damage. And then we have the Royal Recruit. Out of the 3 2 elixir tanks right now, this is definitely the worst. He doesn't even have a lot of HP, so he gets wiped out very easily. And then we have the Spirit Goblin. The Spirit can deal quite a bit of damage, but it's getting less and less impactful because so many minis get HP buffs after every balance change. And of course, after the Spirit, you get no value at all. And finally, we have our regular tier resident, Mr. Barbarian. For the 7th or 5th or 948th time, or somewhere between those numbers, Barb is once again voted unanimously as the worst mini, despite the attack speed buff actually. Moving up to the C tier, these minis are weak, but they are useful in a few specific scenarios, such as Battle Healer, Golden Giant, where are you? There you are, and the Healing Ranger. The Saint minis. The problem with them is that there are so many ways of protecting minis now. The Royal class can reduce damage, the Warden can give shield, Clan class increases HP, Specialist class makes you heal, Goblin class dodges hits. You just don't need a mini that specializes in healing anymore. That's just a waste of a mini. So they got super overshadowed by the Specialists who can heal on their own. Then we have the guard. The only reason why he might be used is as a substitute for the Chompy, to get the 4 undead minis for the bonus damage against the hero. Other than that, he have no reason to not use the Knight instead. So if you see him, you can let your guard down. Or I guess the enemy's guard down. Next we have the Valkyrie. She's in the Clan class, which is one of the weaker classes right now. So she's overshadowed by the Swordsman and the Mini P.E.K.K.A, who can deal more damage and are stronger in terms of classes. Then we have the Mega Knight. You have no need for expensive tanks like this right now, especially not for the Royal class because the reduced damage is already good enough. And then we have the Dart Goblin. The only deck that he's viable in is Barb King for Rangers. People usually go for the Musketeer instead though, to get the Royal class with the Princess, and the Goblin class is kinda terrible right now, which is partly why Bowler is here. Hog Rider is a way better option for crowd controlling at the start. And Bowler is one of the slowest clash abilities. And last but not least we have, I think I can barely see that, it is the Royal Ghost. Yes, he just went invisible for a second. The reason why he's not being used, specifically why the clash ability isn't being used, is weirdly because of the Knight. I'll explain how these two random minis are connected. But moving up to the B tier, these minis are average and they do work well in 1 or 2 decks. Such as the Swordsman. It's a great mini to have in a Wave Master deck. And to get the C synergy, especially if you don't have Shark Bait or Sailor. And he can dish out some decent damage as well. Then we have the Mini P.E.K.K.A. He's a great mini to form 4 specialists for the heals. Now people usually choose the decoy instead, but people such as me don't have it. I'm sorry, I'm poor. So we use the Mini P.E.K.K.A instead. Now he can still offer some value, especially with the Dissipate. Oh, sorry, Energy Drain. I'll never get used to that. Then we have the Miner. He's situational, but still a good cheap mini to add a bit of pressure to the enemy and forcing them to respond in a way. The Rogue class makes him work in counter stacks quite well. Then we have the Ice Witz, one of the main minis in Warden for mages. The slow is helpful sometimes, and the 3rd star pairs so well with the Warden, and his first promotion that gives minis with shields and extra attack speed buff. Next we have the Wizard, another essential mini in 4 mages. The damage is quite a lot, and the clan class makes it very flexible with other variations. Then we have the Storm Wizard. Guess what? Another mage mini. The previous two, they're quintessentials in the Warden Mage deck, and sometimes the Natureborn Mage, but they're not really seen anywhere else. Now, Storm Wizard is seen sometimes in mage decks as a variation, but you see it quite often elsewhere as well, like in 4 Rider decks. Because it takes an entire unit out of the equation, but Apprentice Monk is generally preferred over the Storm Wizard. And guess what? Yet another mage. Infernal Warden. She is seen in the least mage decks because it costs 5 elixir, so Ewiz usually overshadows him, but she can still dish out some serious damage. Next we have the Wave Master Jr. She's situational, but this could still carry you against Archer Queen or Warden decks where you have a lot of ranged minis with supers bunching up. Wave Master Jr. will have a field day with that. And then we have the Archer, the perfect mini in Barb King decks. The dual class gives clan class and also 4 ranger, and the Barb King buff makes her take out ranged minis much more effectively. But the Barb King for rangers wouldn't be what it is without the Magic Archer. He benefits so much from the Barb King super. Those 8 damage shots are way stronger than it first seems. The only problem with Barb King 4 Elixir is that it just so happens to be countered by the strongest deck right now, which is Wave Master for Riders. So you can't get away with using this in high ladder. Then we have Diffuser and Lumberjack. If you use one, you kinda have to use the other to get the elixir synergy, and you usually see them in Pink Fury obviously, but also Warden decks, cause those extra elixir could stack up and get very impactful. And there's also Elixir Golem in the mix. Now that's not really used in Warden decks, it's just a Pink Fury, and it's crucial to winning with Pink Fury. But the Pink Fury is kinda situational right now, like she's not bad, but she's just okay. And you don't even need to think about using the Elixir Golem outside of Pink Fury decks, just don't touch him. Then we have the Musketeer. She is good in Barb King and sometimes Archer Queen decks, paired with the Princess to get both Ranger and Royal class, but she isn't anything crazy, you'll do fine without her. Then we have the Giant Skeleton, a great mini to use in Skeleton King decks to get the 4 undead class, and it also counters melee decks quite well, such as Monk, Pink Fury, or even other Skeleton Kings. And speaking of undead, we have the Witch. And obviously another great mini for 4 undeads, but the skeletons can be a great way to overwhelm countesses or P.E.K.K.A.s, or to tank Princess or Archer Queen shots. Just don't use it against the Royal Champion. Then we have the Villager. I am surprised that she isn't higher, cause it makes your heroes so much stronger. Melee heroes can get healed with the 2nd star, ranged heroes can get a lot more damage with the 1st star, and it fits perfectly in 4 specialist decks, which is usually seen in Wave Master, Monk, Shield Maiden, and Natureborn decks. Then we have the Durian. He works great in Warden decks as a tank, but not really used anywhere else because there's no need for a tank as big as that, since the meta is filled with clash abilities and tanky specialists. And last but not least, we have the Knight. Let's just put it this way. If it wasn't for the bug, he would be way lower. And the bug is that the taunt radius doesn't start from where the Knight is, it starts from the nearest enemy. So the Knight taunts enemies in the radius around the nearest enemy, not your own Knight. So you could theoretically put Knight in the back corner and the taunt could still work. So you could make the enemy minis run like headless chickens, especially paired with the extra duration star. It is so funny to see, it just doesn't make sense at all. So you basically got the Royal Ghost Clash for only 2 elixir. Moving up to the A tier, these are great minis and I would definitely recommend using them, such as the Executioner. barely making it here. It's basically the go-to carry in Shield Maiden decks, and also used a lot in Battle Machine decks. If the enemy minis are lined up well, the Executioner can shred through everything. But that still doesn't beat Princess. Oh, sorry. Rocket 2.0. Let's just call it what it is, okay? And if you don't know what Rocket is, I envy you. I mean, what do you want me to say? Those 3 arrows dealing 14 damage in an area, they speak for themselves, considering how fast they charge with the 3rd star as well. Now we have the Fisherman. He is the sole reason why you always put your range minis at the back row. One sudden Fisherman can catch you off guard so easily. And he just so happens to be in the same class as one of the strongest heroes. Of course. Then we have the Prince and the Hawk Rider, both in the Rider class. And we all know how oppressive 4 Rider decks are. Prince is overshadowed by the Dark Prince, but the knockback is still useful, and the Hawk Rider is awesome versus Archer Queen or Warden decks, where all the range minis are grouped up. And then we have the P.E.K.K.A, a great anti-meta pick. Well, not really anti-meta anymore, but you get what I mean. Destroying Wave Masters and Battle Machines in 2 or 3 hits, and he fits perfectly in Specialist decks, so Wave Master or Ewis can't stun as well. But speaking of Ewis, he is the powerhouse of Warden decks, chaining supers again and again. He is just unkillable, especially with the shield from the Warden. And then we have the Chompy. Essential mini in Skeleton King decks. He just keeps attacking and healing with the 2nd star, and attacking even quicker as his allies die, and healing quicker, and even if you manage to burst him down, he revives back with the 3rd star and continues to heal until he chomps away all your minis. And then we have the Decoy, the best 2 elixir mini. He's super versatile with the beating stick, and it can be used to bait minis, to tank shots, to stun with the 3rd star. It's kinda like a Swiss Army knife. And then we have the Battle Boxer. She is just a strong, consistent mini. Well, actually she's nowhere near consistent. I mean, just look at her model versus her emote. But I digress. If you place her at the right position, she can clear out so many minis at once, and that makes her perfect for a Wave Master or Shield Maiden decks. And last but not least, we have the Apprentice Monk, an essential mini to protect versus clash abilities, because it stops everything, from miners to Storm Wizard. So if you're struggling versus 4 riders, here is your solution, if you're lucky enough to have them, that is. But they're nothing like the Holy Guaca mini tier. You have to use at least one of the minis here. Well, if you have them. Such as the Fisherman 2.0. The ability to pull the furthest enemy and every mini surrounding it as a super multiple times. That is insane. And you can charge 90% of the super using the C class and the 3rd star. So that's basically a clash ability. Then we have the Sailor, or as I like to call it, Infinite Super Generator. A super that costs 2 energy with a star ability that ramps up based on super, with a C class that gives her even more energy, where she can hop around avoiding trouble, all for free elixir. I mean, if you're facing against her, it's never gonna be smooth sailing. Especially because if you see Sailor, you're probably also gonna see Dark Prince, aka Prince on steroids. The AoE damage just makes it way harder to counter than Prince, and you can't just put a mini in front to block. He also charges quicker than the Prince because he's at a higher set. And the shield just makes him perfect at buying time. And being in the Rider class is just a cherry on top. But now, the moment you're all waiting for, the best mini is the Headhunter. For 3 elixir, the damage she dishes out is insanity. She basically deals 24 damage to the hero every 3 hits, with the Dissipate as well, which makes her the only ranged mini with Dissipate for only 3 elixir. That makes her the counter to basically every melee hero. I mean, what more can you ask for only 3 elixir? So here, nope, here is the final tier list, and if you don't have any of the Holy Guacamoles, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. And here's a video that apparently YouTube thinks you like. I don't know how accurate this is. Just go check it out and see how good it actually is. I don't know.